But I stayed there, and I really got involved again with this kind of work, is because students from universities started traveling to Macomb, and because they had read about Macomb and was studying the history of Macomb. And when they would come to City Hall, then the employees that worked there, because I was over administration and HR and all that, and you know, those kind of jobs kind of become a dumping station. You know, when everybody else out there don't know something, then they send them to those kind of people. So the young people that worked at City Hall, some of the employees, they would just send people to me. And then I was familiar with the history that they were looking for. And we would do research for them and look for some of the documents, the old jail documents, or some of the civil rights workers that got arrested and all of that. And then during the 90s, we hosted the reunion, when they had the reunion of the SNCC and all of that, and they came down to Macomb, busloads of people. And the busloads of people that came were people that had not been in Macomb since the 60s. And so it was really an interesting experience, because we had Allie Quinn was still living, and all of the civil rights people that were so involved here in Macomb was still living at that time. And we had panel discussions set up for those people when they came in, and so that made it really, really interesting. Now, I stayed connected with the school district, and when the superintendent was there, I kind of talked to him at one point in time, the superintendent prior to the one we have now, about Cooper, about whether or not he thought racism impacted the education of the kids in the system. And the reason why I was looking at it that way was because even though I grew up in a segregated school, it really changed my outlook, and I in turn felt more motivated, you know, and the kids that I grew up with, they were motivated, you know what I mean, they had initiative, and they just really was on it. So I was thinking that maybe the kids didn't know that if they understood their history, who they are, where they came from, and that some of the people in this area that were so involved in that era, that it might make a difference in how these kids grew up. Because the home school district is what, 90% black? The numbers are really, really high. So Dr. Cooper said that he thought that would be great. And that's how we kind of started that civil rights curriculum development in Macomb. So I stayed connected with that as the community liaison. And Susan Glisson, Dr. Glisson up at the William Winter Institute, she helped us with that and putting together some programs that we did. And so that's what I do now. I stay connected with that program. I also do some projects with the William Winter Institute. And I'm very involved in this community. I'm on the Economic Development Board, and I call myself now just a professional citizen. Because in that capacity as a professional citizen, when you know how systems truly work, you can get a lot of things done. But the difference from then until now, I would say that you don't have that community anymore that used to exist. And I remember one of the mayors telling me that back during that time, at least the black community knew who their enemies were, because they just viewed all white people as enemies. He said that the white community didn't know who their enemies were, because your enemy might have been a person that was sitting next to you or a deacon in your church. So those are some of the differences, and we don't have that same kind of community mindset and how your community is totally supportive of you as we had that during that period of time.
How many of you are school teachers? Let me give you an example of how maybe a school teacher can end up. I have a speech teacher, Miss Sue Faye Knoll. She was with me from the 7th to the 12th grade, about 6 years. Miss Sue is right here by me right now with her hand on my shoulder. And she's largely responsible that I feel perfectly at home on people. I have no stage fright, nothing. I can speak to you, because Miss Sue's going to do it. You never know what influence. It's been 70 years since I finished high school. And this suit is still here with me every time I get up to speak to it. Now, if you cut my hand, it bleeds. About 70% of it is going to be Pike County, Macomb, and my blood. The public schools is next. Early childhood education is next. And all of those things are very dear to my heart. And my first, really, I guess, experience, my family moved to Macomb when I was 7 months old. And except for 9 years getting medical education out of high school from 42 to 49, and 2 years away, I was gone 2 years in the Army. I've been living in Macomb in that time. My dad practiced medicine when I came home, and I practiced from 1949 to 1995. Now, I tell you that so to give you an idea that I've been here a long, long time. I'm 87 now. And my first close experience with desegregation was when I was in the armed services from 51 to 53. If you know your history, President Truman desegregated the armed services in 1948. When I went in February 51, it was still pretty new. And I spent time in Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Michigan. 2 years I was there. So I had some Yankee experience along with the other. I carried my southern accent with me every time. They knew I was from the South somewhere when I opened my mouth, so I couldn't hide that at all. But I had no problems at all with doing it. But you have to be very conscious of where you are, who you are, and how you speak. And of course, you know, in the armed services, rank is everything. And you speak when spoken to and so on. Now, what I prefer, I'll tell you a little bit, and I prefer to say some reason I got up and broke into her because I want to have time to answer questions. I'd much rather you ask me something and tell you a little bit what my experiences are. And if you have some specific question about something, I'd rather you ask me and let me try to answer your question so you will leave here with what means more to you. Now, I had 2 girls in school in 1960. They were 7 and 9 years old. In 1970, they were 17 and 19 years old. So they lived through the 60s. They were their mature years. And they, by the way, public schools has been part of my life and family the whole time. So the school system was part of it. I was president of the Macomb Rotary Club in 1964. That was right in the middle of, we had 16 predominantly black churches that were bombed in Pike County, this surrounding area. We came that close, about a quarter of an inch between my fingers, having martial law in Macomb. You walk around, it was just like being electricity in the air. You just didn't know what was getting ready to happen. Now, in my feeling as the time went on, I thought the blacks were doing it to themselves because no one ever got hurt. How can you have 16 bombings done at all different kinds and not at least somebody get hurt? I thought. It turned out to remain 3 young white men, I call them punks, and that's what they were, that were doing it. And they were found guilty. But the judge, in his wisdom, I think was a very wise thing. He gave them, they had 5 years prison sentence. He suspended the sentences, provided there were no more bombings in Pike County. He said, now, I don't care who did it, but if there's one more bombing, all 3 of you are going to get picked up and you're going to punishment for your full 5 years. There was not a single bombing in Pike County. It was just like dropping the knife. They got the message. Those 3 boys thought they were heroes. They thought that we were going to have a parade down Main Street in Macomb, and they were going to ride down in a pickup truck with a gun on the rack and the behind, Rotary Club had a four-way test. I had something to do with that. I proposed that we put that four-way test to use. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill, a better friendship? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Those four things. That solves everybody, any kind of problem you have.